Okay, easy little how-to video. Obviously on flyer, already hit on the way, arrived, already talked to the customer, let her know what we're doing. And I said, hey, I'm just gonna get started here. I hooked up our water to our water supply, drug out our hose line, got our nozzle hooked up. And then obviously in here, wanna make sure our downstream injector comes out of here. That little tube goes into this barrel, and then you wanna just mix this full of bleach for a house wash. After you got that all set up, your nozzle's on, just obviously make sure it's ready. There's a start, choke, you got your throttle right here. This is a little broke, so you might have to play with that some. Tank's full, our chem's in our line, so then we can obviously just go straight to washing. We got our line drug out. I wonder if I can set this up. So we got our two nozzles. This one does not pull chem unless you're pulling it out of the actual X-Jet. This will pull chem when you're downstream injecting this one. So first thing I'm gonna do, just go through, wet the entire house, top to bottom. And obviously you can play with this. So if you want more of a fan, obviously we don't want to be using like full pressure if the siding has oxidation. That stuff that looks like dust was really that paint, because then we can disturb the oxidation, and we don't want to do that. And then say we're ready for chem. I'll just go ahead and take this out. Sometimes this gets stuck. Make sure that's all the way up. I'm just showing this for example. And then you got about 20 seconds. That's gonna spray until it sprays chem, right? Because the line's full of water. And then you're gonna downstream the entire house, bottom to top. I'll show you how to go about this. So I'm just downstreaming everything. And obviously there's another nozzle that I like to use. So you got this one right here. So I obviously got it on this right nozzle. This one's like a little fan, right? So same thing. Obviously everything's not on all the way, but I want to get it to the side. I want to get to the side, and then you'll go bottom, get all the siding to top, and then obviously if you have high sparks you want to use the other injector. But obviously you're going to be spraying water for about 20 seconds, and then chemicals start to come out. What I like to do is I'll come up on this concrete and just spray it, and you'll start seeing like white bubbles come out. If you don't see that after about 25 seconds, your downstream injector might be broke. And you can always put your finger at the end of the injector tube to make sure it is sucking. If it's not with that nozzle, then the injector might be broke. So you might just have to find a little toothpick, take the top of the hose off and stick it in there to clear it. But that's pretty much it. So I'll wet it with our water application, switch over to that, chem it, make sure there's actual chem coming out right. You'll see it on the white bubbles on the concrete. And then just get a nice even coat, and you'll see as it starts to eat away at all the mold. And then you'll switch it back to the X-Jet. You'll have about another 25 seconds of chemical, remember, there's chemicals in the line. And then you'll put the rest on the side, and then you'll move to the other side and start wetting. And obviously, while you're, one side, after you chem it, what you can do, because you want to sit on there about, 3-5 minutes is usually how long it takes, and you'll see it working. Obviously I missed a couple spots in here, so you can see like this is where chemical hit and this is where chemical didn't hit. So have to go through and redo that. And another thing, just make sure we're hitting the windows good with water. That way the chemical doesn't leave real bad water spots. And then make sure we're wetting down plants. Just do a nice even thing on grass, any flowers. make sure they're just wet before and after we chem. And after it's set, we'll go back through, switch to our water nozzle, and we'll just wet the entire thing down. And obviously, say for some reason this nozzle breaks, you can always just use these nozzles. The only thing you have to do is go back and take the little tube out of the chemical, right? So this just kind of saves you a trip back and forth. But obviously if that breaks, you know, you can just take the tube out when you're wetting, and then put it back in when you want chemical. But that's pretty much it. You're able to get pretty much any house wash with that method. Obviously there's a couple other nuances, but that's pretty much the gist, right? Wet with your wet nozzle, chem, let it sit for about 5 minutes, get a good chem, just a nice even layer on everything, and then you know, wash the other side and come back and rinse off the chemical, and then get in, make sure we wet all plants, and we just keep everything wet, like front doors, plants, and obviously you'll get a better hang of it the more you do, but that's pretty much the simplest way I can explain it. We're putting chemical on the siding and outsides of gutters, and then we're rinsing it off. But yeah, that's how to downstream a house. And then obviously there's videos on how to extrude a house with the nozzle at the end of the gun, and you want to mix that about a gallon of chemical for every 4 gallons of water if you're doing it at the end of the gun. But if you're just doing it downstream over here, you just want straight chemical.